The power of letting go, what the Buddha knew all along. The sound of the world is loud, and yet beneath it, something quieter calls to us, not in words, but in the subtle ache of longing we barely understand. A whisper beneath our daily noise. The tremble behind our smiles, the pause in our breath when we forget who we are. We are all holding on to something, a name, a wound, a hope, a version of ourselves we haven't met or can't let die. We grip tightly, sometimes without knowing we are even holding. But like clenched fists, our hearts become tense, and that tension becomes the lens through which we see everything. So many of us are tired, not just of work or of the world, but of ourselves, of carrying the weight of stories we no longer believe, identities we no longer fit, emotions we've tried to bury under ambition, distraction, or perfection. Letting go is not weakness. It is not resignation. It is not a giving up, but a giving in, a return. There is a kind of truth that does not shout. It does not debate. It does not dazzle. It simply waits like still water beneath a frantic stream. And in moments of quiet, when we stop searching and start seeing, it rises. It rises not with fury, but with clarity, with the gentleness of one who has always known. This is the power of letting go, not the dramatic escape from society, not the monk on the mountain untouched by the world, but the simple, profound act of loosening one thread in the knot and seeing that the whole tapestry begins to shift. We hold on to anger thinking it protects us. We hold on to love thinking it defines us. We hold on to pain thinking it makes us real. But what if none of this is what we are? What if, like breath, we are not meant to hold, but to let pass through? The Buddha did not teach in abstractions. He did not ask us to escape the world. He pointed to the world and said, "Look, not just with your eyes, but with your heart, with presence, with silence, with honesty." He saw suffering not as a curse, but as a key, a doorway, a teacher. To let go is to see things as they are, not as we wish them to be, and yet we cling. Because to let go feels like a death, the death of control, the death of certainty, the death of a self we've spent years constructing. But what if that death is the beginning of life? A tree lets go of its leaves not because it despairs, but because it trusts the seasons. The sun lets go of the day, and the sky does not mourn the night. A wave returns to the sea and is no less real for having disappeared. Why then do we fear our own impermanence? There is a kind of beauty that arises only when we stop trying to possess beauty, when we stop trying to preserve a moment and instead live it fully and allow it to pass. Like watching someone we love walk away, not because they don't belong, but because they were never ours to hold. Love deepens when it is not clung to. Joy expands when it is not grasped. Peace reveals itself not in getting more, but in needing less. To let go is not to abandon, it is to return. Return to this breath, this moment, this body, this. There is a quiet revolution in softening, in loosening our grip on the narrative that we must be someone special, do something great, win something lasting. Even greatness passes, even victory fades. The praise you received yesterday will be forgotten tomorrow. The pain you feel today will shift in shape and dissolve. Everything does. And yet, we behave as if we can freeze time, capture the good, avoid the bad, cling to praise, reject blame, and we suffer. Not because life is cruel, but because we resist what is. The mind creates 1,000 rooms, some with pleasure, others with fear. We decorate them with memory and worry, call it me, and then try to live there. But the self is not a room. It is not a fixed identity. It is a river, always moving, and to try to hold it is to lose it. There is such a thing as the freedom of emptiness, not hollow, but open, not numb, but vast. When you release the illusion that you are what you own, what you fear, what you've lost or gained, something extraordinary remains: awareness. Still, steady, whole. Letting go is the art of becoming light. Not in a shallow sense, but in the deepest way, a weightlessness of being. When we no longer carry stories that do not serve us, when we stop rehearsing pain and start listening to silence. In silence, you will meet yourself, not the self shaped by the world, but the self that simply is. Before name, before history, before desire. Just this, seeing, breathing, being. And perhaps, in that silence, you will weep. Not from sadness, but from the sudden understanding that you were never broken, only burdened. That the peace you sought in others, in success, in escape, was always here. A leaf floats down from a tree and lands in still water. It does not resist. It does not ask, why me? It simply follows the wind. What if we lived like that? Not as victims of fate, but as dancers with it. Moving with what arises, not against it. Trusting the rhythm of becoming and unbecoming. We've been taught to grip, to plan, to chase, to achieve, but rarely are we taught to release, to exhale, to forgive, to allow. And yet this is where the real power lives. There are seasons in the heart, moments of blossoming, moments of decay, and moments where nothing moves, and we think we are lost. But even stillness has a purpose. Even silence is speaking. We live in a world that rewards accumulation of things, of titles, of opinions. But the Dhamma is not about adding, it is about shedding. It is the path of less, not as deprivation, but as clarity. A bird does not carry its nest on its back, and we too must learn to travel light. We hold on to relationships that no longer nourish us, ideas that no longer reflect reality. We fight the truth because it threatens the image we've built. But the image is not you. You are not the mask. You are not the role. You are not the story you've told 1,000 times to make sense of pain. You are awareness, aware of the story. And that awareness has never been harmed, never been diminished. It does not age. It does not mourn. It does not crave. To live from that awareness is to live free. But the door to that freedom is small. So small, in fact, that you must leave your baggage behind. You cannot walk through it with resentment, or pride, or the desire to be right. You must come empty, naked, still. That is the surrender the ego cannot tolerate and the soul longs for. A letting go so complete it feels like falling. But what if falling is the beginning of flying? You will be asked to let go again and again. Not once, not twice, but throughout your life. Not because life is cruel, but because life is change. And change demands surrender. The loss of youth, the fading of love, the departure of those we cherish, the crumbling of certainty, all of it, invitations to meet what we fear the most, the unknown. And yet, the unknown is not the enemy. It is the place from which all things arise, and to which all things return. It is the womb of the moment. The open sky before form takes shape. The Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree not to escape the world, but to see it clearly. He sat not to gain something new, but to let go of what was false, fear, identity, illusion. And in letting go, he did not become less. He became boundless. There is a still point within each of us, deeper than personality, deeper than belief. A place not touched by gain or loss, a flame that does not flicker with the wind. We do not need to create it. We only need to uncover it by removing what obscures it. Desire is sticky. Fear is heavy. But truth is light. It carries no weight. It seeks nothing. It simply. And to live in truth is to live without clinging. But the world teaches us to cling, to secure, to achieve, to compare, to prove. You were not born seeking validation. You were taught to. You were not born afraid to fail. You were conditioned. You were not born ashamed. Shame was planted in you like a seed and watered by a culture that profits from your insecurity. Letting go is not weakness. It is rebellion. It is the soft revolution of the spirit against the lie that you must be someone, somewhere, something else before you are worthy. You are already worthy. Worthy of breath, of love, of presence. You do not need to earn the ground beneath your feet. You only need to touch it with awareness. There is nothing to prove. There is only this moment, and whether you meet it with grasping or with grace. Letting go does not mean you will not feel pain. It means you will not build a home inside it. It means you will not turn sorrow into identity or disappointment into destiny. It means you will allow the heart to break and trust that in breaking it becomes more spacious. Let go of the story that your life should look different. Let go of the story that healing must be fast or linear or complete. Let go of the need to be understood by everyone. Let go of the illusion that enlightenment is far away, reserved for the few. Sometimes, letting go is simply allowing yourself to be as you are, messy, sacred, in between. Sometimes, it is choosing not to react, not because you're passive, but because you're free. There is a quiet power in non-reactivity, in pausing before the old habit pulls you back, in watching a thought without becoming it, in feeling a wave of sadness rise and saying, "Ah, there you are," without drowning. The practice is not about perfection. It is about presence. Presence when you're joyful. Presence when you're grieving. Presence when everything is uncertain and you don't know who you are anymore. Especially then, there are times when you will be asked to release things before you're ready. The death of a dream, the end of a relationship, a change you didn't ask for. And still, there is dignity in surrender. Not the surrender of the defeated, but the surrender of the wise. The kind of surrender that says, "I will not harden, I will not close, I will remain open, even as I fall apart, because I know this too is sacred. Pain is not a punishment. Loss is not failure. Even endings are beginnings, wearing different clothes." The mind will tell you, hold on, fight back, fix it, control it. But the heart, when quiet, whispers, "Let it pass. Trust. Be still." Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the absence of resistance. And in stillness, clarity returns. You see that the one who is angry is not you. It is a pattern. The one who craves is not you. It is a habit. The one who fears is not you. It is a voice. You are the one who sees. This seeing is your freedom. When the Buddha spoke of freedom, he did not mean becoming untouchable, above feeling, above life. He meant being fully in life, without being bound by it. He meant loving without needing possession, grieving without collapsing, acting without ego, resting without guilt. Can you feel the weight begin to fall away? Can you feel the spaciousness in your chest, even now? You were never meant to carry so much. You were never meant to be so tense. Even the earth, so vast, so solid, yields to the rain, bends to the wind, accepts the season, and yet you, small as a breath, try to resist what is. Let go. Let go not because you must, but because you can, because it is kinder, because it is lighter, because it brings you home. Home is not a place, it is not a person, it is not a future achievement. Home is the breath you are taking right now, if you let it be enough. Home is this body as it is, if you let it be enough. Home is this moment, raw, imperfect, fleeting, and utterly whole. Letting go is not about retreating from the world. It is about returning to it with open hands. It is about seeing the sacred in the ordinary, the divine in the mundane. It is about drinking tea with presence, listening to rain without distraction, holding a child without rushing, sitting in silence without needing to be. Life is not waiting for you after your to-do list is complete. It is here, now. Inhale. Let it come. Exhale. Let it go. And in that letting go, discover that you were never missing anything. You were just holding too tightly to what was never yours. There is something profoundly tender about impermanence, not as a concept, but as a lived truth. You wake one morning and the sky feels different. The face in the mirror has changed. The hand you used to hold is no longer there, and life, in its quiet unfolding, has carried something away. But it has also brought something else. Grief arrives with love still echoing in its arms. Solitude walks hand in hand with clarity. Even endings carry the seeds of renewal, though they do not always bloom on our schedule. We say we want peace, but often what we truly want is comfort. A sense that nothing will be taken from us, that no change will surprise us, that everything we cling to will remain within reach. But comfort is not the same as peace. Comfort lives in what is familiar. Peace lives in what is real, and the real is always moving. The river does not apologize for its current. It does not slow for our fear. It flows because that is its nature, and so must we. We are not statues carved in stone. We are not the roles we play, the names we answer to, or the beliefs we inherited. We are unfolding. To let go is to honor that unfolding, to allow the page to turn, even when we loved the last chapter, even when we don't know what the next one holds. Letting go is not forgetting. It is remembering differently. It is holding the past, not as a prison, but as a teacher. It is saying, that too was part of the path, but it is not the whole path. There is grace in this shift, a quiet grace, the kind that does not need to be seen, the kind that does not shout, "Look at me, I've healed," the kind that just sits quietly with pain, and breathes, and breathes, and breathes, until pain itself softens, not by force but by being allowed. Because what we allow, we make space for, and what we make space for, we no longer fear. This is the wisdom of the forest, of the open sky, of the old monk who smiles without speaking, because he no longer needs to argue with life. The Buddha did not promise that we would not cry. He did not say we would never feel anger or loss or doubt. He said, bring it all, but hold it lightly, watch it, understand it. Don't make a home in it. Let it come, let it go. Like clouds passing through the sky, not you, but moving through you. There is a difference between pain and suffering. Pain is the raw fact of life. The scraped knee, the heartbreak, the good. Suffering is what we add to it. The story, the resistance, the grasping. And so often we suffer not because of the pain itself, but because we won't let it be what it is. We hold the flame and wonder why we're burning. We tighten around sorrow and wonder why it won't leave. Letting go is not denying pain. It is stepping out of the war with it. And from that stepping out, a new kind of strength arises. Not the strength of dominance, but the strength of softness. To let go is to trust that you will not disappear in the absence of control. To trust that who you are is not what you hold, but what you are when you hold nothing. The self that emerges when the hands are open, not clenched. The self that is spacious enough to contain contradiction, sadness beside joy, loss beside love. It is possible to be at peace, even in uncertainty. It is possible to stand in the middle of change and not need to anchor yourself to anything except awareness. Not knowing becomes holy when it is no longer feared. The mind craves resolution, but the heart knows some things are not to be resolved, only with. Like a sunset that fades without climax, or a song that ends on a breath. There is a sacredness in what does not conclude neatly. And perhaps the greatest letting go of all is the release of the need to understand, to stop asking, why did this happen to me? And begin asking, can I be with this just as it is? This is not passivity. It is presence. You still act. You still feel. You still grieve. But you do so from a center that is not swayed by every wind. The ocean moves, but the depth remains still. You are not the waves, you are the depth. We have been taught to define ourselves by form, but the Buddha pointed to the formless, to what is untouched by time, untouched by decay. What dies is not what you are. You are the one who watches the dying. The body will change. The thoughts will come and go. Even your name will one day be spoken for the last time. But there is something within you that is not born and does not die. And it is found only in the letting go. When the noise fades, the silence is revealed. When the clinging stops, clarity arises. When the self dissolves, freedom begins. Not the freedom to become anything, but the freedom to be nothing. And in that nothing, everything is held. There is a story, not in scripture, but in silence, of a monk who carried water every day from the river to the temple. His buckets were old, leaking, worn. One day, a younger monk asked, "Why don't you replace them? You lose so much water." The old monk smiled gently. "Yes, but I also water the path." In letting go of efficiency, he embraced presence. In releasing the need to preserve every drop, he nourished what was around him. There is beauty in this way of living. A beauty that does not measure worth by outcomes, that does not ask, what did I achieve today, but rather, how gently did I walk the path? Letting go teaches us to walk gently, with ourselves, with others, with this trembling, luminous light. And when you walk gently, you begin to notice things. The way sunlight lands on your skin, the sound of a bird echoing across an empty street, the softness in someone's eyes when they no longer need to defend their story. These are the gifts we miss when we grip too tightly. These are the sacred moments we overlook when chasing something we think we need. Let go, not as a command, but as an invitation. Not to be better, not to become enlightened, not to transcend this messy human life, but to be fully in it, awake, kind, here. And in being here, you might finally discover you have always been enough. Some of the most important letting go will not be dramatic. It won't come with thunder or applause. It will be quiet, gentle, It might look like taking a deep breath instead of sending that message born of anger. It might sound like silence in the space where defensiveness once lived. It might feel like sitting alone, in the stillness of your own company, without reaching for distraction. We think transformation must be loud, but real change often whispers. It whispers in the small acts of courage you take, day after day, to not react in the old ways. It whispers in your choice to release an identity you've outgrown, even when the world still claps for it. It whispers in your willingness to feel what is raw without numbing it, to say, yes, this hurts, but I will stay. The world wants you fast, productive, certain, but the Dhamma is patient. It waits for the day you tire of striving. It waits for the moment when nothing makes sense and everything feels hollow, because that is when you are most open. Not broken. Open. Open to something deeper than logic, wider than identity, open to the mystery of being. We are taught to fear that mystery, to fill it with labels, plans, the illusion of control. But the mystery is not a void. It is not the end of knowing. It is the beginning of one. It is where the mind bows and the heart rises. To live in that mystery is not to drift aimlessly, but to walk with reverence, knowing that the path is made by the walking and the map is drawn by presence. Letting go is not the end of desire. It is the purification of it. Desire, at its root, is not wrong. But when we attach to it, cling to it, identify with it, it becomes suffering. When we let go, we don't stop loving. We love more freely. We don't stop dreaming. We dream without fear. We don't stop living. We live without armor. Can you feel that? That quiet possibility underneath the ache? It is the soul stretching out after years of being confined. It is the self, shedding skins that no longer fit. There will be grief in this, because to let go of the false is to mourn the comfort it gave you, even if it was always an illusion. You might grieve the person you thought you'd become. You might grieve the future that will never be. You might grieve the version of yourself who needed to be strong all the time, because no one else could be. And that grief, too, is part of the letting go. Let it come. Let it speak. It will tell you stories. Stories of how you learned to survive. Stories of what you lost, what you hoped for, what you tried to hold together when everything was falling apart. Listen gently. Then thank those stories and let them rest. You do not need to carry them forever. There is no finish line. No final form of yourself you must reach to be worthy of peace. There is only this breath, this moment, this practice of loosening your grip, of softening your gaze, of returning again and again to what is real. Letting go is not a one-time event. It is a rhythm, a tide. Like the breath, in out, we inhale the world, we exhale our clinging to it, we touch life, we release it. Not because we don't care, but because we do. Because love, in its purest form, holds with open hands. The mother who watches her child grow and go. The lover who accepts change without grasping. The friend who sits in silence without trying to fix. This too is letting go, and it is holy. There is a paradox in the path. The more we release, the more whole we become. The less we grasp, the more life moves through us. And the more we let go of self, the more deeply we recognize what we truly are. Not separate, not isolated, not defined by body or mind, but interwoven, alive, spacious. There is a you that does not need to be improved. A you beneath the conditioning, beneath the anxiety, beneath the striving. It does not need to be healed, because it has never been harmed. This is the ground of being, the pure awareness the Buddha saw when all else fell away. You don't need to chase it. You don't need to become worthy of it. You only need to stop building walls against it. And those walls are made of stories, of should, of shame, of the belief that you are separate from life. Let go of the wall, even for a moment, and see what floods in. Not more thought, not more effort, but a deep, wide silence. A silence that holds everything, without judgment, without fear. This is what the Buddha pointed toward. Not a heaven elsewhere, but freedom here. A freedom born not from escaping the world, but from no longer being entangled by it. A freedom that lives in the heart that is open, even when life is uncertain. A freedom that walks barefoot on the earth, knowing there is nowhere to go but now. Can you sense it? That spaciousness just beneath your worry? That stillness beneath your thoughts? It's always been there, waiting, not in a temple, not in a doctrine, not after death, but in this moment, if you let it be enough. Letting go is not about losing. It is about seeing clearly what was never yours to begin with, and in that seeing discovering the vastness of what you already are. And when all is said, all is done, when the striving ceases and the questions dissolve, what remains? Not answers, not achievement, but presence. Just this, the rustle of leaves in the wind, the breath rising and falling, the silent awareness behind your eyes, watching, not judging, not comparing, simply being. And in that being there is peace. Not the loud peace of perfection, but the quiet peace of no longer needing to be anything more than what you are. You were never broken. You were becoming. You are still becoming. But now, perhaps you can become without clinging. You can move without grasping. You can love without holding too tightly. You can let go, not because you must, but because you finally see that everything you were afraid to release was never what you truly needed. The truth is not found in what you add to yourself. It is found in what you are willing to release. Let go of the anger you carry like a badge. Let go of the shame that was never yours to wear. Let go of the need to be understood by those who never saw you clearly. Let go of the chase for meaning in places that only reflect your wounds. And when you let go completely, not with regret, not with resistance, but with the soft exhale of one who is no longer at war with life. This is the way of return. Not a return to the past, but a return to what has always waited beneath the noise. Stillness, spaciousness, simplicity. You are not here to conquer life. You are here to be life, open, flowing, ever-changing. Let the moments rise and fall. Let the joys come and go. Let the sorrows pass through like wind across water. And let yourself be the one who sees, unmoved, yet deeply moved by it all. The world will go on spinning. The sun will rise and fall. People will come and go. Stories will start and end. But the part of you that knows, the watcher, the stillness, the witness, it has no form. It needs no name. It simply is. And to live from that is the greatest freedom. Not the freedom of escape, but the freedom of intimacy. The kind of intimacy that allows you to touch the world without being consumed by it. The kind of presence that allows you to feel everything and still return to peace. This is the middle path, the open hand, the compassionate gaze, the way of the one who lets go, not because they are above the world, but because they are fully in it. There is no enlightenment far away. There is only now, and how lightly you choose to carry it. So as this moment fades and you return to the rhythm of your day, let this truth linger like incense in the air. You are free. You were always free. The only chains were the ones you thought you needed. And now perhaps you are ready to open your hands. Let the story fall. Let the burden soften. And walk, barefoot, into the lightness of being. Thank you for walking this path with me, all the way to the end. If you felt something stir, something loosen, something soften, I invite you to follow and stay close. There are more whispers of truth waiting in the silence between words.